Hi, I'm Dennis. Welcome to my talk video on C# fundamental tutorials. For you to understand this taught video, I would advise you to watch the second video and the first video first before coming to the talk video. Now, this will now bring us to our next point on board, which happens to be the subroutine. You can take note of our last video that last two videos we did, we talked about variables. We talked about not even talking about variables alone, we equally created a class for the variables, and I showed you how you can declare variables, the means of the variables, what are variables. They could come in different forms, in property, fields, local variables, etc. And then we talk about data types, which you saw. And now we are at the peak of it, which is subroutine. Subroutine can also be named method, procedures, or function. In C# we call them methods. Generally, I think in Delphi, when I was programming in Delphi, I realized that we're using it as procedure. Even in VB.NET, we use function to define them as well. Let's go actually write some codes. I'll teach you how to write subroutines and the different means of, or the different type of subroutines. I will be working on three types of subroutine. I'm going to be writing a normal subroutine, which we call it a method actually. I'm going to write a normal method, and a method that takes a parameter, and a method that returns an object. Okay. Before I dive in, I want to explain one simple factor. You know, most of the things that we do from day to day, we might not know we've met them before. We might not know we've been doing them before. You might recall that we've been using methods to set values in our in our console. I'll give you a perfect example of some of the methods we've written before. If I go to C# data type basic. You see, I have this is a method. A method is nothing other than having a curly bracket at the beginning and a closed curly bracket at the end, and everything that comes out in the block happens to be on that on that method. And the signature of that method is called set names. So definitely this is a method. Okay, we've been using it before, and it's not new, but I just will probably dive in more details to explain. I believe you've seen that, and what we've done is that one that you've seen before. So, and then what we should be doing, I might be doing all three, but the main part is that you're going to meet this one, the one that takes a parameter and the one that returns a parameter. Okay. All right. Let's go write some codes. First of all, I have to create a class, which I done to keep things simple. Let me get this up. Sorry. Alright, I pushed it over to the other side, and to make things a little bit simple, I've created a class for it. But I have a name special for that, which I'm going to put in here. I'm going to call it C# subroutine. Add it into it. So make it public. Alright, clean every mess that I might not be needing. Now, the first part of it that we want to do is create, generate a method, which happens to be that one. Let's work on that one first. And I've previously made created or written a code for that. So, but first of all, I need a dynamic kind of a public property, a variable to hold my values, and then I'm going to just copy that I've written. I'll place it in there. So, and I will just exactly. So now that is a method that sets a person. The person is dynamic. It's a dynamic type, which I explained earlier on. And then I set the name, last name, date of birth, address as an object in between, and I have to write them out. So what's going to happen now? We are going to call our subroutine from the program. before we do that, we actually have to generate class from that, and then call our subroutine setPerson, and whatever is in that method is going to be displayed on our console, because we've already taken all the details here and placed them in the console. So let me run that. Okay, there you go. As you can see, we have the setPerson subroutine or method, otherwise known as method, output, where I have the name, date of birth, street, postcode, city, country, and the data type you know already, which I've explained before. So simple as that. That is a subroutine, and that is a subroutine that doesn't return or take any parameter. It doesn't return any value or takes any parameter. Okay. All right. So now let's go write another code for a subroutine that takes a parameter. Okay. Perfect example of that will look like this. Now, to keep it simple, I've written some codes as well to handle that. I'm going to copy that, which is that. I'll paste it here, same in the subroutine class. Now you see, this is a method with a parameter. It's taking a dynamic type into it, meaning it's taking a parameter of a dynamic type that's going to be set on my console. So, and to do that, we have to call it on the other side, which is the program side. I'm just going to comment that one out. Alright, so, and I say dot setPerson. You see, it wants a dynamic. It's waiting for it's expecting me to give him a dynamic type. So, but I've written the code for that anyway. So I'll take that. So see, I've created a dynamic type, and I'll pass this dynamic type into it as a property. As a parameter, and this parameter will now be sent to my subroutine, which happens my method. Will come in and display the name and last name will be passed as a value to the full name, and at the end of the day displayed on my console. So to see that on live, let's just run this, and you will see Dennis, Eurawa, and my date of birth on it as well. Let's run it. See that? That's exactly what I mean. Subroutine output. Okay, that's the output, exactly the way I explained it. That took a parameter of a DC, which I paste in the setPerson subroutine or method. Okay. All right. Now the next one will now be, which happens to be the last one that we'll be talking about, will be something like that. A method that returns an object. Okay. Now to see that in action, we have to place that on code. Again, I will say I have created some codes for that already, which I will copy and paste as well in my subroutine. Now, this is a subroutine that returns a value. Now, the value that it returns is dynamic. Now, if you see, the difference between this subroutine and the other two that we've been creating is that they are all having what they call void. Okay, this is public and void. Okay, now in this case, we are given a type called dynamic. So, in the dynamic, we say public return. This you see here means public, please return dynamic when you get this signature. Okay, and that's why I defined it here, set it, and return it with the keyword return. So always when you have a method that returns a value, you definitely have to return something. I mean, not something, basically what it needs. So in this case, it needs a dynamic. So in my case, I've defined a dynamic, and I'm returning a dynamic for it. So let's go try that actually in codes. On the other side and see how it sounds. It's going to be like, let me see. I've got some certain codes here already written for that aspect, and I'm going to copy and paste it at the program side. I'm just actually going to comment that one out. So there you go, and I will call it sub. Now, we've called the method here, which will definitely give us a dynamic type, which we are storing in this variable, a local variable. And then taking the local variable, we can now, with the help of the local variable, we have the means of reaching the first name and the last name, and assign it to a full string name here, and then basically display them on our console. So let's just run this and see how it looks like. There you go, David Kahn, date of birth, and the type, which I've explained earlier. That's it. Sounds very simple. Okay, I'm going to take that out. Sounds very simple. Okay, so let's go review that again. What we did here, we gave a dynamic person in there. We just defined a dynamic person here and give it the first name David and give it the last name Kahn, and with the date of birth. And what we got on the other side is equally a dynamic, and we use that to display the values on board. All right, good. We just talked about subroutine, data types, and variables, and now we are digging further into conditional statement, meaning I will be demonstrating in codes the if and the switch statement. All right, so let's go write some codes. Now, the first thing to write, or the first code that we should be writing, should be the if statement, and then later we'll move over to the switch statement. So let's first of all create the if statement. I'll push this over to the other side, and before doing that, actually, I have to generate a class for the conditional statement, which I just do now. So I call it C# conditional statements. Okay, make that public. All right, so to speed things up, I've created some series of codes which I will copy into the page over there. The first one's going to be that one. So now, as you can see in this code, I did a subroutine which I said check person by first name. So I'm going into this within the block. I go in and I set a default boolean, which is false, and I check if the first name is equals to Dennis, which I've set previously at the top. Please tell me it's true. If it's not, tell me it's false, and then write it on my console, which I did here. First name, and then is it Dennis? Yes or no. So if we want to check this, we have to actually copy this and go to our block where we used to do that. I'm going to comment that out and do something like that. Condition now statements is equals to new condition statements, and then let me get the subroutine that displays information. Check by name. Okay, so what we're supposed to be getting from there is that here we'll be having Dennis. If it's Dennis, it's going to display the name Dennis. Okay, but if it's not Dennis, sorry, it's going to display the name Dennis anyway. So here we should concentrate on this part. If it's Dennis, it's going to say it's true. If it's not Dennis, it's going to say it's false. Now, previously we've set that as Dennis, so when we run this, it's going to say it's true. Definitely, what we get here is true. Now I'll run it. Okay, it's building. Look at that. Is it Dennis? Yes, it's true. So definitely it's true, and it is Dennis. Now we'll go back and change the name to something else. Let's say David. Sorry. And run it. So this will not be true anymore, right? It's going to be false. Let's go run it again. There you go. Name is David. Is it Dennis? No, it's false. So it's not Dennis. So now that's a perfect way of using the if statement. Now you might recall that we've been using the if statement. We've even used it before. If I'm not mistaken, we may have used it in the data type here. We may have did something with a boolean type when I discussed about the boolean type before, and that is here, where I had to set it here with the age, which determines if it is true or false. So that is another perfect way of using it. So definitely, as you can see here, we've checked for a person's first name by using the if kind of thing. So this if statement, most precious and important in terms of software programming, writing codes. You need them generally just to prove and check and cross-check things over and over again. Okay, let's go further to let's dig further to give you some insight of some more examples. To speed things up, I've written a couple of codes here, which I'll copy and paste, which is change person by first name. This is where we are digging further into the if statement. If you can see, I said if it's Dennis, please come in between that block and print the information out. If it is else, if it's David, go in there and print out the information. Else, if it's Martha, go in there and print out that information. Else, meaning if it is not that one, and not that one, and not that one, then generally do that one. That means print anything that comes out there, even when I don't even put anything. So to test that, actually, let's just take that and run it here, and we're going to comment that one out and test that, like change person first name. In this case, we're taking Dennis. Watch the first one. When we run that, we'll see it's going to write and display Dennis on screen. Now the next one that we have is David. So when we say David, it's going to go ahead and print out David. I'll run that. Exactly. Okay. So that second one was David. And that's why it went into David's block. So, and then the third one definitely has to be Martha. So when I run this, it's going to go into Martha's block and print out Martha's information. Okay. And now if I choose not to put Martha, nor David, nor Dennis, and I take out this and say that you're just an empty string, it's just going to print out the last block. And look at that, no name is given. So it just went straight to the last block. Even when I put the name that doesn't correspond to David or Dennis or Martha, it's still going to go to the last block. Let's say I pick a name called Ben, and then run this. No name is given, but because I didn't put the name, I didn't tag it in the block. That's why we're not having his name there. But basically, it doesn't find Dennis. It didn't find. It wasn't Dennis. It wasn't David. It wasn't Martha. It was something else. So it definitely goes to the last block, no matter what you do. Okay. All right. Hope you understand that. So let's go straight to the switch statement, which is left on board. I will show you. We should be talking about this now. Now, to keep things simple, I've written a code before. I just go and copy and paste and explain in details what code does. Here, I have that one. Let's say looks like that. Now that's the code. This is the switch method, switch by first name. So the first name will come in. It will go into the switch, come into the block, and check at the case. The first case that it cross check is it the case Dennis? Does this first name equals to Dennis? It's going to run that block. If it is not, it goes to the next case. If the first name case is equals to David, then he was going to run that that on console. If not, it goes forward again and check the next case. If the case of first name happens to be Martha, then please run those. If not, just please do the default. It's more precisely like what we did previously. Just like that one, change person first name. It's nothing but simple and easy. So it depends. It's a thing of a choice. You can use the switch or you can use the if statement. But basically, in my condition, I tend to choose. It depends on the condition on what I want to do. So there are special reasons when I use special times when I use the switch, and there are special times when I use the if statement. Okay, let's go test this actually. Here, I will call that condition statement dot switch. So let's check the condition, the case of Dennis, and see what prints out. It's going to print out the Dennis. Now it prints out Dennis, and then let's check on David for the case as well. Definitely gonna print out David. Same. And now Martha. Check on Martha. It's going to print out Martha as well. Okay, print out Martha. And then let's go in and say Ben. It's not Martha. It's not Dennis. And it's equally not David. So he doesn't find it. So it goes directly to the default. Okay? Pretty simple. Nice and easy. Alright, that's it on this video. I hope to see you in the next video as we continue with C# Fundamentals tutorial. If you have questions or anything, leave me an email or write me anytime. So, see you in the next video. God bless you.